Good morning and welcome to Norcal APEX Accelerator's webinar. This is the start to your cybersecurity journey, covering CMMC Level 1 basics. My name is Amanda Anderson. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal APEX Accelerator. And today I'm joined by Frank Luna, one of our awesome procurement specialists on staff. He has a over 25-year career in government contracting, being a business owner as well as a business support throughout that career. His leadership roles have included serving as a VP of Operations, Director of Contracting, and he has been a part of the largest janitorial and sanitation distributor in the US. He currently works as a procurement specialist. I believe he's going to be hitting 7 years of procurement specialist work very soon. And he really does enjoy helping you and businesses just like you face the unique challenges of the government marketplace. But before I go into, or before I pass it off to Frank, I do want to let you know a little bit about our program. And thank you for joining us today in particular, a very special day as it is National Apex Day, where we and our nationwide network are celebrating 40 years of fostering success in government contracting. If you're interested in connecting with your local Apex Accelerator, or maybe you're looking for more contracting training today, Apex Accelerator centers across the US are hosting events and connecting with local businesses communities to celebrate this milestone. And you can use that hashtag Apex Day 2025 to check out the celebration and maybe even join in yourself. But what exactly is the Apex Accelerator program? Who are we? What do we do? Well, the Apex Accelerator program is a nationwide network of over 96 centers, just like ours, that are funded by federal, state, and local grants to provide businesses like you with education training so that you can participate in government contracting. We have over 96 centers nationwide, with quite a few just in California alone. And every center offers these resources, trainings, and counseling at absolutely no cost to your business. But what exactly does those services look like? What does the counseling look like? What kind of resources do we have? Well, at Norcal APEX Accelerator, we're able to offer our no-cost government contracting assistance to the 15 Northern California counties you see on your screen. And we offer these services through three main pillars. First, our one-on-one counseling, where once you are onboarded as a client with us, you'll get paired directly with a procurement specialist, just like Frank or one of the other procurement experts on our team. And once connected with them, you can schedule appointments at your leisure, at your need, and you can meet with them over Zoom. Or if you are in Humboldt County, we do have an in-person office, and they can help you with anything regarding government contracting, from doing your initial market research to helping you get certified and square away all of those registrations, to even helping you with CMMC compliance, level 1 and above. We help with anything and everything related to government contracting. And another great resource we offer to our clients is our custom bid matching program. Now, this is a software our program pays for and is able to offer to our clients at absolutely no cost. And what it does is it allows you to sit down with your procurement specialist and define specific criteria in what you're looking for in government contracts. So maybe you can only perform your work or services in a certain geographic location. Or maybe you have a really new and unique product. So maybe that product name or something identifiable about it would be good criteria. Your procurement specialist can help you figure out what good criteria looks like for you, and then they put it into our system, which scrapes federal, state, and local procurement sites for opportunities directly related to that criteria, and it emails them to you. It can take a lot of the tediousness out of finding those opportunities and really boost your possibility of success. And our third resource is one you're actually taking advantage of right now. We put on a number of virtual and in-person trainings throughout the year covering complex topics like today's to more introductory topics like how to do business with the state of California, or maybe how to polish up your capabilities statement. And the best part is, even if you weren't able to make the live webinar session, we host all of our webinar recordings on our website, in addition to a number of links and resources regarding every level of government contracting. So if you are interested in getting connected with your resources and getting that business support at absolutely no cost, I highly recommend you reach out to your local APEX Accelerator or reach out directly to us if you're within our 15 county service area. And you'll see both of those links on your screen, and I'll be happy to drop them in chat for you as well. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Frank for this presentation.
Great. Thank you, Amanda. And good morning, everybody. And thank you for joining us today for this workshop on CMMC Level 1 Basics. And so the agenda, as you can see on the screen, we are going to cover the Level 1 CMMC Basics, the essentials of the essential elements for the compliance piece for just Level 1. Now, we're just covering Level 1. There are 3 levels, and you'll see in future slides. We'll also cover obtaining your assessment, your Level 1 certification, and then next steps. But first and foremost, before we get into the meat of the workshop, this information, we have a disclosure. This information provided is accurate to the best of the presenter's ability at this time. And as you know, the speed of government is changing regulations and rules. We are getting weekly, bi-monthly updates of continual changes. So some of the, or all of the provisions mentioned here could be changed by the current administration with or without prior notice. Now, we're trying to stay on top of all these notifications that are coming from the government, from all sectors of government, and we're trying to communicate these to our client base as soon as possible. So please bear with us if the information does change. So Level 1 Basics, what is Level 1 CMMC? So CMMC stands for the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. Again, it is a cybersecurity, and this is a requirement by the Department of Defense. Currently, it is only required by the Department of Defense. It is a standard to strengthen cybersecurity for contractors that are engaging in selling their products and services to the federal government. It ensures, of course, a constant, robust framework to protect sensitive information. The key points is going to be the maturity level. Like I mentioned, there are 3 levels. Basic is Level 1, Level 2, Advanced, and Level 3 is Expert Certification for cybersecurity. The focus of the CMMC is to protect federal contract information, FCI, and you will see a lot of acronyms in our presentation, so I apologize, but if you are new to government, acronyms will be your next language. And of course, controlled unclassified information, CUI. And again, compliance is all contractors, depending on the level of engagement with the DoD, will need some level of CMMC certification in order to engage with the Department of Defense. But why do we implement the CMMC? I'll give you a couple of examples as why this is now critically important. Current standards or current estimates of hackers, this is cybersecurity threats hitting the United States, daily range from 2,000 to 4,000 individual hackers from our adversaries across the world. So that means that they are constantly and continuing trying to access sensitive data. One of the data breaches that we experienced was with our military. We have a fighter plane, the F-35, which is the latest, greatest military plane. That was developed by the US at a cost of $100 million per plane. There's different variations, but the cost is pretty exorbitant. The US, did the R&D, the research and development to implement this tool into our military. And then the data was stolen via, of course, cybersecurity breaches by China. And China was able to replicate our F-35, and now they call theirs the J-35A. And of course, they were able to replicate it at a fraction of the cost. Some of the breaches that were identified were through small businesses that were engaging with prime contractors. So that's why this is important. And here's the timeline that the government has been working on the implementation of the cybersecurity maturity model certifications. So it did start in 2020, and it's been evolving since there, but now we are at phase 1 here at November 10th of this year, which is the effective date for the final rule of 32, the CFR, which is the FAR regulation that governs government contracting. There is a phase 2 for level 2 contractors, and phase 2 will be rolled out next year, the 10th of November. And this does require a third-party assessment by what we call a C3PAL. First, level 1 is a self-assessment, and we'll go into the details in later slides. Phase 3, November of 27, will be required for level 2 on all awards. Level 3, government assessment is required at award. Phase 4, the final date of implementation is going to be November of 2028. That's when the DoD will require small businesses engaging in government in all levels will require all levels of certification. We enclosed the DFARS rules. They're below, and as I mentioned, the Federal Acquisitions Regulations is what governs federal contracting, but there is a supplement, the Defense Federal Acquisitions Regulation supplement is in addition to the FAR that covers additional DoD contracts. Next slide. But in simple terms, this is what you really need to look for. I want to make sure that we keep it simple. And when you see this FAR clause, the 52.204-21, that is the FAR clause requirements for controlling and safeguarding cybersecurity contract information, FCI or CUI. Level 1 does focus on FCI only, so keep that in mind. So level 1 is foundational. It does match the FAR clause mentioned, and it is by implementing 17 basic hygiene practices, which is a subset of the NIST 800-171 revision 2. And yes, we did start with revision 1, and we're now up to 2, and there is an additional NIST, and we'll get into what NIST is. As I mentioned, without level 1 certifications, small businesses cannot bid on DoD contracts. And again, implementation date, you need to be able to have your self-assessment at the time of award. CMMC Level 2 is advanced, and it aligns with, again, the NIST Revision 2. It does require all 110 security controls across 14 categories. The implementation date, we have a little longer time to ramp up to that. But again, it does depend on what level of engagement you have with government. More companies that are engaged in technical are going to be required level 2 and level 3. Level 3 is expert. It includes the original NIST, but it also has enhanced controls with the NIST 800-172 for advanced threats. So, okay, so keep in mind that these other 2 are not implemented, but level 1 will be required as of next month in order to bid on a contract. and at the time of award. It does take time to do your self-assessment, and so might as well start now. Now, as I mentioned, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, is who puts together the cybersecurity framework. It is the foundational requirements in order to keep CUI and FCI on federal contracts secure. It forms the basics for compliance, and we've provided a link there for you to go in and research and continue to read and learn more about the requirements as it serves as the foundation for the CMMC. Next slide. Now, the essential elements, as we mentioned, there are 17 basic practices. And so the level 1 focuses on the 17 security practices that must be implemented. These controls, as I mentioned before, cover primarily federal contract information only. The level 1 controls for small businesses is typically included in a combination of securing hardware, software, networking tools tailored to the organization's size, industry, and operational needs. This emphasis for level 1 is data access control. In essence, the DoD is the owner of the CUI and FCI, and the small businesses are tasked to keep it secure. And we'll go through the detail on how to keep those data points secure. Now, when you're looking at your infrastructure, you need to identify all desktops, laptops, servers, routers, anything and everything that touches data. Access controls, which is, and you'll see these in the NIST 800-171 SAC, you'll see them in different sections, and this one is regarding the access controls. Only let, of course, approved people, personnel, and devices access your system. The hardware includes, as I mentioned, desktops, laptops for all staff, remote workers, and executives. Servers on premises, cloud-based services, managing data applications or websites. Networking equipment, routers, switches, modems for establishing connectivity with local networks need to be identified and secured. Peripherals, external storage devices, to include printers, scanners that handle documents. They also scan and have documents internally once you send them through external devices. Mobile devices, smartphones, tablets, and on-the-go communication and productivity. As you've heard in the news, even mobile phones get hacked for information. Other access controls are to allow users only tasks that they are authorized for. So limitations on access for authority. Check and control connections outside systems as well. You need to ensure that if you're using third parties, that they also have the protocols in place. Manage what information is shared or processed on public systems to ensure, again, that the information is not in threat. And when you're going through these, as I mentioned, all these AC 1.003 do match the self-assessment guide that's been updated as of September of last year. Next slide. Now we go into identification and authentication, IA. So identify users, processes, and devices before giving them access. Security must be at the top of your mind whenever you're working on government contracting. Verify identities before allowing access, of course. There's media protection. Securely erase and destroy devices or media, like USBs, papers, with FCI before throwing them out or reusing them. FCI, again, is federal contract information. Some of the information could contain drawings to a federal installation or facility, even for a company that is doing general landscaping or janitorial services on premises. That could contain FCI. Next slide. Now there's also physical protection of your premises and also access to your data. Under the PE section, you have to limit who can physically access your computers, equipment, workspace, and also facilities. Larger companies that have facilities will need to have visitors logs, will need to track entry and exit if you are managing FCI to your facility via these protocols. Visitor guides. Visitors will be guided through the facility and records will be kept as to who enters and exits your facilities with specific purposes. And again, I understand that this is quite a bit of requirement for businesses to incorporate just to do business with the government. But keep in mind, you are tackling the biggest customer in the world. So compliance is going to be a little greater. And from the small business standpoint, you are going to be tasked with securing the information that you receive on these documents when you're bidding on Department of Defense contracts. Next slide. Then we move into systems and communication protection. So the SCs, the monitors and secures the data sent and received at network boundaries. Now, we're not going to get into what systems to use, what operating systems to use. That we do recommend that you work with an IT professional. Most of the larger firms, Microsoft, AWS, those do have encryption and are protected systems. So if you are using some of those remote storage devices or storing cloud solutions, you need to document that, but keep in mind that those protocols are in place as well. You also need to separate public-facing systems and internal networks. And again, this depends on the size and scope of your firm. Smaller firms, if you operate out of your home, then some of these protocols are not going to be as binding as a larger firm. So system and information integrity, of course, under the SI, you have to fix and find system issues quickly, identify threats, make sure that your software, antivirus, malware is updated and scanned regularly. Regularly check systems and files for security problems and fix them. Security logs will need to be kept whenever you do identify a threat or a situation, as we'll cover in later slides. So the internal policies for access control of FCI, access controls, of course, the business does need to implement policies to define who can access resources based on identity, role, and or function. Least privileges granting users and processes only necessary for privileges to access rights and perform their task. Of course, you're going to have an administrator granting access to certain files, certain FCI, certain roles that the contract administrator will be able to designate. Of course, separation of duties. Different duties will have different roles and different access to this data. You might have financial data along with your proposal, but again, FCI must be protected. Privileges access management, implement controls that limit and monitor access to privilege accounts and systems, such as those used by administrative tasks or sensitive operations. Next slide. We talked about role-based access. You want to make sure that you limit your access and Assign the roles to the individual tasks. Attribute-based access, grant access based on details like department or job titles. Logical access controls, restrict networks, files, data access using authentication and monitoring. Physical access controls, of course, secure your building, secure your location, server rooms, anywhere where FCI or access to the FCI can be granted needs to be locked up and needs to be defined as to who can access it. Process-based access, allow access to only specific authorized tasks or workflows. Monitoring and auditing, regularly checking access patterns to ensure compliance and spot issues and repair them. Next slide, please. Now, the control of the internal system access, authorization rules need to be set, guidelines of who can approve these transactions or access to sensitive information, separation of duties we discussed, physical controls. You might want to have access cards, key cards, cameras to secure equipment and access and monitor. Discrete access control, allow data owners to decide who gets access. Training, very critical to teach employees about access policies and the importance of confidentiality. And also to identify when they are reviewing FCI or CUI. And some of the pitfalls are when small businesses cannot identify if it is true FCI. So authority chain, define a clear role and responsibilities for system and data access. IT controls, if you do have an IT department, use change management, configuration management, vulnerability management, and incident response plans. Audits, of course, you want to audit your system for threats. Find them and also fix the weaknesses as you scan through your system, update your firmwares, your antivirus, and identify any possible breaches to continue to keep FCI secure. This is continual. Once you implement your level 1, this is continual. This is something that you will have to practice on a regular basis, is to ensure that your systems are secure. And the access, of course, access controls are also kept in line with who needs to access your data. Next slide. Now, the transmission of FCI, network segmentation. If possible, separate public-facing systems from internal networks to protect the FCI. Communication to control, of course, monitor and secure data sets sent or received through network boundaries. Flaw remediation, find and fix systems issues quickly to prevent FCI breaches. We talked about the antivirus, anti-malware, use software to protect systems from malware that could harm FCI. FCI handling, create a flow procedure to safely handle and dispose of FCI, including shredding documents, wiping drives, disposing of USBs, anything and everything that touches FCI. And again, teaching, I can't stress enough, the teaching of the employees that handle and touch FCI to ensure the protection. If you do have a larger firm, your FCI might be touched by a sales team, by an operations team, marketing team. So it could be touched by several people. So the workflow does need to be secure. Next slide. Okay, so now obtaining the level 1 certification. Again, we mentioned that it's a assessment, and we'll walk through the process of the assessment for businesses. So to prepare for the CMMC certifications, you must go through and check to see how well your business meets and stacks up to the NIST 800-171 Rev 2 requirements. It identifies what needs improvements to comply. And this is primarily for compliance. So it will take you through, when you're reviewing the self-assessment, it'll take you through and you will check off what is missing. Meeting the Rev 2 requirements of the NIST is critical to qualify for contracts involving SCI. It does reduce the risk. Compliance lowers the chance of data breaches, and the penalties under the federal rules are very large. For more guidance, we do have a link there for one of our partners, Project Spectrum, where you can go through a self-assessment for your business through their channel. Project Spectrum is a great learning avenue for us. We've partnered with them, and they have a great tool and also a learning module that'll take you through the steps of learning and level 1, level 2, and I believe they're working on level 3, but they have a very nice system, very intuitive, and we definitely, if you are very serious about this and need to implement this now, Project Spectrum is a great resource. Next slide. So the tools for implementation, one of the things you will need is a system security plan, an SSP. It's a required document describing, again, how you implement the NIST 871 in the Rev 2. The good thing is that there are templates out there you can download that will guide you through the SSP that you will need to document. And again, this outlines the company's computer requirements and the controls in place that provide the safeguarding of FCI. Now, the document is going to be quite lengthy. An SSP can be 10 to 20 pages, but again, there are templates where you can develop your own based on the access controls and the 17 cybersecurity protocols that we've outlined. As long as it is kept in writing, up to date, an SSP tool is needed for implementation. Next slide. So the contents of the SSP is going to be the scope, of course. The scope including the systems, network, and the data that it covers. It covers also components. Identify what entails in your system to include all the hardware, software, personnel that we discussed in previous slides. The configuration of your system, including security settings and access controls. Assets. What are your assets protected by the system, including data, systems, and personnel? The security controls. Document security controls that are in place, including access, authentication, and authorization of the data. System components. Identify system hardware handling the FCI. The controlled implementation. Describe how each applicable control is implemented. System boundaries as well. What is the scope of the security plan that applies to the networks and servers? The responsibility assignments, of course. Who manages and assigns the roles that control FCI? And as you can see, it is going to take you a while to come up and implement this level 1 CMMC. It's not going to be something that is done overnight. So plan it out and execute. Next slide, please. And the timelines for implementation are based on the size of your firm. How complex is your infrastructure? Once a self-assessment is done, you do have an affirmation part that has to be uploaded in the system that we call SPARS. and also into the PI system, the Procurement Integrated Enterprise. So once your assessment is done, you will log into SPARS, and we have a link below where you can begin to familiarize yourself with the site and utilizing your CAGE code that was issued by SAM, System of Award Management. So if you're new to government, we do have a course on certifications, and so you can find out what all the SAM registration and kind of the SPARS, what I'm talking about here. And so you will also need to go into the PI system, the Procurement Integrated Enterprise Environment, and create, using your CAGE code again, and create an account. After the account is approved, you will assess your affirmation score, and the passing score for level 1 is 15. It is a perfect score based on your self-assessment in SPARS. So again, we can help with your self-assessment if you are new to this, and we can help walk you through the navigation of these websites. They are a bit of a challenge to navigate. I do recommend that you, if you're not too tech savvy, to definitely get some support, and we're happy to help. Next slide. So with all that said, what's next? Beginning to understand and connect with the resources that are available to help you implement your CMMC Level 1. We have DoD resources that will guide you through the implementation and guide you through the information. Gavology is also a great source for training. They have live and also on-demand workshops where you can learn not only just on CMMC, but other topics with regards to government contracting. Highly recommend Gavology. NIST, of course, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is the foundational framework for CMMC. The link is there for you to begin to read, understand, and ask the questions, of course, for clarity, so you become fully aware of what is the compliance piece that is required from a small business to bid on DoD contracts. Project Spectrum, as we mentioned, another great partner that we have that can help with self-assessments. They also have one-on-one consultations and resources that will help small businesses learn and prepare for their level 1 certification under CMMC. Now, this is a ton of information. If you're new to government, be patient with yourself. This is not a quick sell. The sell cycle for government is a little bit longer, especially if you are working with FCI or CUI. These protocols do need to be implemented. Again, I expressed the threat that we are constantly facing, and of course, the experience that we've already had with the breaches of security. So the resources are here to help small businesses implement these controls. We're here to help you navigate and understand what you are diving into when you're implementing these processes. And next slide. Now, some of the common mistakes that we've seen and also I've experienced in my own practice is documentation, the failing to create your SSP and other required records, access logs, who's accessing your facilities, weakness in access controls, not limiting access to systems or federal contract information with strong passwords, role-based access, or physical security, including access to facilities. Updates, of course, updates are not fun. They do take time out of your productivity. Whenever you see a firmware update, you got to pause and update, but those are critical to your security of your system. Take the time to implement regular software updates, antivirus, and all the necessary tools to avoid attacks. Employee training, lack of employee training is very common. Employees need to understand that when they're looking at contract information with regards to the Department of Defense, that they can identify and know how to handle FCI. It is critical that you teach your employees not to take a thumb drive home with FCI and put it on their personal computers. Very common, of course, but a practice that needs to be limited and prohibited if you are touching CUI. Not identifying FCI, not having the knowledge base to identify what you're looking at are the common mistakes that we've seen companies experience with regards to CMMC Level 1 compliance. Next slide. So our final advice, of course, create a cybersecurity policy. Begin to write a clear policy on how your business handles cybersecurity. Secure your network, of course. You should already have strong passwords, backups on all network devices. Controlled access, of course. Who can access CUI, FCI? You need to make sure that you understand who you've given authority to access that information. Of course, you have to have a plan to mitigate threats and incidents. Employee training on a regular basis needs to be implemented. So as you onboard new employees, they're up to speed with FCI protocols. Protect data, protect backup, save important data on a regular basis to avoid losses. Encryption of data, always recommended. Secure sensitive data. Update and monitor systems. Watch for suspicious activity and act quickly. Lastly, document everything. Everything needs to be documented in order to avoid threats, fix issues, and avoid future incidents. Final recommendation is don't delay. You should begin implementing these steps immediately, even if you're just handling level 1. Next slide. Now, I could not have done this workshop by myself. I do have a team that also shares into the content and make sure that we are presenting current and correct data. So we do have a team, and I have the pleasure of working with very talented colleagues that have a wealth of information. So if you do not work with myself, you will be paired up with a procurement specialist that is a professional and an expert in the field as well. Not only do I have the pleasure of working with the team here, I can tap pretty much 300 other colleagues across the nation as well. We have a network of colleagues across the nation that if I don't have the answer or our center does not have the answer, we will definitely find it for you. If you're not already a client, please visit us at apexnorcal.org to see what our total services are, what other trainings we have, as you'll see in other slides, and how to engage with us.
Absolutely. And our purpose as an Apex Accelerator and as a part of this nationwide network is to help you succeed. So we really want to see you succeed, but we can only do that if you sign up for our services. So if you are interested in our services, but maybe not within our Northern California County service area, you will see in chat a link to our nationwide network page where you can find your local center and sign up for their services, all at absolutely no cost. And before we get into the questions, we do have a number of questions. This is a good reminder. If you have any questions about the presentation or about how to connect with our services, please do enter that into the Q&A section. But before we jump into that, I do want to spend just a minute or two on some of our other upcoming events. So next week on October 14th, we'll be joined by California DGS to present the first of three parts of an introductory contracting with California series. So if you're interested in maybe expanding outside of the federal space, this would be a fantastic event for you to join. And in the spirit of that as well, at the end of this month, we'll be doing a foundational procurement skills workshop titled How to Do Business with the Government. It goes over a very high level um, overview of very foundational skills that you'll need to be successful in government contracting. So, whether you're fairly new or maybe you just want to brush up on the skills that you already have, that is also a fantastic one to join. And then on November 8th, that is a typo. On November 8th, we'll be doing the I'm Certified Now What, the second part of that California contracting series. And then back into the federal space, we will be covering how and when to communicate with your contracting officer on November 12th, which is quite important given the current federal landscape. So that is going to be an absolutely fantastic event to attend. Whether you're looking at federal contracting or not, it's going to be very much focused on communication skills in the contracting space, which almost anybody can use. So with that, I'd love to get into these questions, and thank you all so much for entering your questions into the Q&A. First up, I have a handful that were very similar. So I'd like to kind of address those. A number of folks were asking for, in general, just more details, looking for policy templates or like how to set up the discretionary access control. And there's more finer details. Unfortunately, that's not something we're going to address very directly, as this is a high-level overview covering the basics of CMMC Level 1. But I would love to ask Frank, is there a template for all of these different items? Is there like a standard best practice that they can find, or would it be kind of unique to each business situation?
Yeah, well, the framework is the NIST 800-171. And so that will guide you through what is applicable to your firm. So it is a checklist. And as I noted, under the access controls, under the PE sections, if it does apply to your firm, then of course you need to make sure that you implement the controls for that one specific protocol. Again, depending on the size of your firm and the complexity of your firm, some of these protocols will not apply to you. Like an example, security for the facility. If you're at a home base, a smaller firm, a one-man shop, don't have employees, then your access controls to your facility you don't need a key card, you don't need a log, entrance log of people coming in and out of your office, of your home office. So the NIST 800-171 is your checklist. Now, the details, again, to Amanda's point, if you do need help in the details as to the firewalls and the external storage devices and identifying those, we do ask that you seek the IT professional in order to identify that.
Absolutely. And I'm sure in that NIST, they cover a number of different situations. I know someone asked specifically about guidance for remote only companies. Is that going to be in there as well?
Yes. And of course, it will have the same protocols as a remote location. The external access or the external connectivity needs to be secure. The manner in which you access the controls or the FCI needs to be secure. So if they're accessing a shared drive, the path, of course, needs to be secure.
Fantastic. All right. And there are a lot of questions, so I do appreciate everybody's patience as I sift through. I want to make sure we get to as many as possible. So let's go ahead and get to Chris. Chris was wondering, his company currently has a federal contract, but the government themselves provide the laptop, phone, and access to government servers. Does that interconnect with CMMC? Would he still have to certify as if those were his own tech in his own servers?
Is it a Department of Defense would be my question. If it is a
Mm,
Department of Defense, it is, of course, subject to this CMMC requirement. If it is not a Department of Defense, then currently it is not subject to this protocol.
fantastic. And I think something I always hear is contract is king. So if it's listed in your contract, you are responsible for it. So that's probably the best place to check, right, Frank?
That is correct. Of course, if you're given tools to implement the contract, then there, of course, there will be safeguarding protocols on the tools given. So it goes back to the terms and conditions. And again, the FAR clause of 52.201-52, I believe, or 21, which is the FAR clause for CMMC. If that is in your contract, then yes, you will need to implement those controls.
Fantastic. And then someone was wondering if you have any experience personally or through your clients of using Vanta to provide attestation over like a time period. It looks like someone in the audience is currently using him and is wondering if it's the best situation.
So is that, I'm not familiar with a third party, but third party, if they have a third party that is doing the assessment, needs to also have the controls, needs to also make sure that if you are looking for them for level 1, they need to be level 1 certified. If you're looking for the third party to help you with level 2, they need to be a C3 PAO certified firm. So make sure that you are getting the support from a government contractor, somebody that is versed with dealing directly with the Department of Defense. They're going to have the insight as to what are the system protocols that they need to follow.
Fantastic. And then Victoria was wondering if the level 1 certification is required at time of bid or at time of award. It seems like she's been getting kind of conflicting answers from someone else.
Right now, it's at time of award. As of November 10th, we think that it's going to be at the time of bid.
Okay, so that's one of the things that's kind of in development at this
Yep,
point.
yep, correct.
Awesome. And then someone was also wondering if the creation of the SPURS and PIEE accounts are going to be, do you think that they'll be delayed because of the government shutdown? Is that going to delay the account creations?
No, what we've been seeing is that the automated systems are still moving forward. So the process of registration is pretty much automated. Now, if there is an issue with your profile where you do need to talk to somebody at the Federal Service Desk or a contract administrator, that's where we are seeing the bottlenecks. We are seeing the support staff for these websites as being out currently. So Federal Service Desk is out in case you have an incident with your SAM registration. But that's what we're seeing is that the support staff is currently out, but the automated systems for registration are still working.
Fantastic. And that's always good. That's where automation really does its job. All right, we're on the subject of the SPARs. Are there any common pitfalls that you see clients or businesses really run into when completing the SPARS self-assessment for the first time?
Well, since it is a self-assessment, you do need to be accurate and honest with your assessment. Okay, so it is, again, you're in charge of your own self-assessment, so you're going to be checking off your own boxes saying you've done this. Make sure that you are 100% secure that when you check that box of those 17 requirements, remember your score has to be perfect. You have to have a perfect score in order to be granted that level 1, and it is an annual recertification as well. So just be honest with your self-assessment. If there is a breach and you've assessed that you are secure, then penalties can be severe.
Awesome. And I am seeing a handful of CMMC level 2 questions. As that's not directly related to the topic today, I do want to ask a little bit about that, but we'll wrap up with those questions as I do really want to focus on CMMC level 1 and getting those questions answered. So this is a good question. Jean is wondering if there are compliance items that just simply aren't applicable to the company for whatever reason. Is that something that is notated in the Spurs assessment? Is it just kind of a binary, yes, we meet it, no, we meet it, or will there be some sort of NA not applicable option?
There will be an NA not applicable option with a description as why it is not applicable. And I do recommend that you list why it is not applicable to your location or to your firm when you do receive CFI.
Perfect. And then this is something I know we've gotten a few questions about. What is the quote unquote passing score for the self-assessment?
15. Yeah, a 15 is a passing score. And that apparently is a perfect score.
Awesome. And then let's see. For the Spurs account and the self-assessment of level 1, when inputting that data, is there any kind of documentation or proof that is required?
I have to, let me check if the security of the SSP is required, but I do not believe so. I believe it is a checkbox where you check a box that you perjure yourself if you lied and done anything dishonest, and you just submit.
Yeah.
But I can double check that. I'm not sure with if the system has changed or not.
And I'm sure even if it's not required by the self-assessment, it'll be very valuable to have on hand in case of an audit, if in case things come up in question. So it might be a best practice to have it anyway.
We always recommend that you keep all your documentation in writing. That way, you can show that you've gone through the protocols and try to meet these requirements.
Fantastic. And I do see that we are just at the top of the hour. I do believe I was able to get to most of the CMMC level 1 questions. So I would love to kind of wrap up the session with just a bit of clarification about CMMC level 1. What exactly is going to be required on the next deadline? That's November 20th, I believe was the date. You still there, Frank?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What is going to be required at the next deadline, the November 20th
November
deadline?
10th. Oh, okay.
10th.
November 10th. Yeah,
Thank you.
November 10th will be a mandatory level 1 CMMC certification for FCI. Keep in mind it's FCI only, not CUI. So anybody that receives federal contract information on a contract will need to have those protocols in place at the time of bid.
Fantastic. So, with that, I will go ahead and wrap us up for the day. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I do hope you got a lot of information. It's definitely a lot of fine details to be keeping track of. But please do remember you have resources, you have connections that can support you and your business throughout it. All you have to do is reach out, whether that's to us at Norcal APEX Accelerator, one of our other many network partners of Apex Centers, or one of the other resources we mentioned, like Project Spectrum or Govology. You can reach out to all of these resources, and all of them can support your business and your contracting goals. So, as a final reminder, the recording, as well as the full slide deck, all links active and clickable, will be emailed directly to you within 1 week of today's event. And as you do exit this webinar, you'll be redirected to our feedback survey. If you have just a moment of your time, we would really appreciate your feedback as that helps inform all of our presentations. So if you think this was a great presentation, you want more like it, maybe something more in depth and more detailed, that is the place to let us know. And in the same vein, if you want to see maybe something different, maybe you want to see a full overview of all CMMC levels at a very high level, just to get the perspective and the full picture, that is also the place to let us know. So if you do have a moment, we always appreciate your feedback, and it really does inform how we present these trainings because we truly do these trainings to help you. So if we can be doing it better, please do let us know. And if we're already doing a great job, we would always love to hear that as well. And with that, I would love to thank Frank for this wonderful presentation. It was definitely a lot of information to cover.
Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Perfect. And yes, thank you all so much for joining us. And with that, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.